Hello everyone. Hope you all are doing well. Welcome to Diplomat's Desk. I am your host Meet Shah. When India votes, the ripple effects travel far beyond New Delhi. They reach Washington, Ottawa, London, Canberra, Beijing, and Moscow, and even further into Africa, the Middle East, and the Indo-Pacific. Because when 900 million people choose a government, they don't decide who rules India. They directly influence global energy flows, military alignment, supply chains, and the power balance of the world's biggest geopolitical rivalries. Today, let's break down how elections in India reshape the global strategy of major powers the United States, Canada, Australia, China, Russia, United Kingdom, and other regional players. Let's dig deep. Now, into central and state level signals, real facts, and real examples, and understand why India has become the swing state of 21st century. Okay, India is no longer just a rising power, it is a system shaping power. The world's fifth largest economy, soon to be third, top third military spender, a demographic superpower with the world's largest workforce, the centerpiece of the Indo-Pacific strategy balancing China, a leader of global south influencing Africa, Latin America, and Asia. When India's political direction shifts even slightly, every major power recalibrates its strategic assumptions. Question arises: will India lean towards the West? Will it deepen ties with Russia? Will it hedge between blocs? Will it open its market or protect them? Will it escalate or de escalate tensions with China? These answers shape global diplomacy, military planning, and economic strategy. Now, in 2024 Lok Sabha elections, India entered new political phase. The ruling coalition returned to power but with reduced majority for the first time in decade. The central government must rely on coalition partners and the opposition gained meaningful strength. And why does this matter globally? Because the world now sees a more consultative coalition style India. Foreign governments must negotiate not just with the Prime Minister's office but also influential regional leaders and state governments. Okay, so states like Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, Telangana, and Andhra Pradesh now shape foreign investments, technology hubs, investments in industrial corridors, port development, and energy policy. So, a coalition government must consider farmers, small industries, regional parties, and public sentiment before signing big trade agreements or any defense deals. So, for global power, this means India is still stable but less predictable and more multivocal. Now, let's talk about the United States. India is a partner, not a proxy. For Washington, Indian elections are about one thing: can India remain the anchor of America's Indo Pacific strategy while maintaining its strategy autonomy? How the US reads Indian elections. A strong majority government usually means faster defense cooperation, deeper quad alignment, and more technology agreements. A coalition government signals slower movement, more negotiation, and greater domestic scrutiny of foreign pressures. So, post 2024, what changed for the United States? India remains indispensable against China, but New Delhi won't be a treaty ally, it will be sovereign issue by issue partner. The US must court both central and state governments. American diplomats now engage chief minister directly for semiconductor plants, drones, aerospace projects, and clean energy corridors. Russia becomes a pressure point. Despite Western sanctions, India continues to buy discounted Russian oil and maintain defense ties with Moscow. For Washington, this complicates its Russia strategy. Now, technology cooperation accelerates. AI, space, quantum, cyber, and semiconductor cooperations are now pillar of the US-India relations, but each requires political stability in New Delhi. India's elections remind Washington that India won't join any military alliance, but it will cooperate deeply where interests align. The US must earn India's partnership, not assume it. Now let's talk about the Canada, a relationship shaped by diaspora politics. No country feels the influence of Indian domestic politics more directly than Canada. Strained relations over six separatist movements, the Niger controversy, and intelligence allegations have frozen political dialogue. Now, how elections influence Canada's strategy is Canada closely watches Punjab's political results. They reveal India's internal stance on separatism and give Ottawa a sense of how assertive New Delhi will be on diaspora extremism. Trade and education remain stabilizing forces. Over 230,000 Indian students study in Canada. Canadian agriculture and universities depends heavily on Indian engagement, but Any political tension can disrupt visas, trade talks, and research collaborations. Coalition politics in India make diplomacy harder. Regional sensitivity mean the government of India must be a tougher on perceived foreign interference. For Canada, every Indian elections indicates whether relations can thaw or whether state level or diaspora politics will keep tensions alive. Okay, now let's move to the Australia defense, mineral, and the India factor narrative. Australia sees India as essential in the Indo-Pacific. With China's assertiveness rising, Canberra views New Delhi as a long-term defense and economic partner. What election changes for Australia? First, strategic continuity. Across parties, India has remained firm on maritime security, quad cooperation, and defense modernizations. State level diplomacy matters. Australia firms invest heavily in critical minerals, lithium, cobalt, nickel, found mostly in Indian states like Rajasthan, Odisha, and Andhra Pradesh. Election outcomes in these states impact mining, concessions, environmental clearances, joint ventures, local political buy-in. Now, education links require stable policy. Australia's higher education economy depends on Indian students. Policy changes driven by political pressure in India or Australia can reshape this flow. For Canberra, Indian elections determine the peace pace, not the direction of cooperations. Okay, now let's talk about the United Kingdom post Brexit dependence on India. For the United Kingdom, India is not just a partner, it is a necessity. Post Brexit, Britain needs fast growing markets, skilled workers, investment pathways, and geopolitical footholds. How elections shape UK's strategy. The India-UK Free Trade Agreement, a landmark FTA, reducing tariffs, expanding services access, easing mobility, become possible because London believed India's government had enough political capital to approve it. Elections determine which sectors get liberalized, how strong immigration controls will be, whether mobility of Indian professionals increases, how Britain positions itself in the Indo-Pacific. So state level UK diplomacy. The UK now work directly with states, finance and fintech in Mumbai and Gujarat, electric vehicles in Tamil Nadu, aerospace in Telangana, education partnerships across Karnataka. So when India's political landscape changes, the UK must rebuild political bridges from scratch. Now let's talk about the China, a mix of tension, competition, and guarded cooperation. China watches Indian elections more anxiously than any other major power because India is the only large Asian nation capable of balancing Beijing's influence. What China looks for in India's election? Will the new government escalate or de escalate border tensions? Since the 2020 Galwan clash, both sides have mobilized thousands of troops along the LAC. Stability depends partly on India's domestic political mandate. Will India open or restrict Chinese trade and tech investments? Chinese companies dominate India's smartphone and electronic markets, but political decisions dictate their level of access. How strongly will India align with the US? A stronger US India partnership weakens China's Indo Pacific dominance. Post 2024 Chinese recalibration is Beijing welcomes India's selective economic openings such as visa easing or Chinese executives. It seeks border stability to avoid driving India fully into Western alliances. It uses BRICS and SCO forums to keep India engaged in non-Western platforms. So, to narrate to China, India's elections represent a barometer. Is India becoming more assertive or more open to pragmatic engagement? Now let's talk about the Russia, energy, arms, and dependability. For Moscow, the Indian election is not about the ideology; it's about reliability. Why India is vital to Russia? Because India is a top buyer of Russian crude oil and military hardware. Russia needs India economically after Western sanctions. India needs Russian energy, spare parts, and defense technologies. Election impact on Russia's strategy. A strong Indian government gives Russia confidence. Stable leadership means long term contracts in energy, defense, space, and nuclear sectors. A coalition government means more caution. Moscow must engage multiple political actors, not just New Delhi, to secure continuity. US pressure increases Russia India cooperations. As Washington sanctions Russian oil trade, Moscow frames India as a sovereign independent actor resisting Western pressures. For Russia, India is a geopolitical anchor, and every election shapes how tightly that anchor holds. Now let's talk about the other players like European Union, Gulf, Japan, the global south. Beyond the big powers, several other players recalibrate their strength after Indian elections. European Union negotiates trade deals, pushes climate regulations and digital standards, tracks India's stance on carbon taxes, steel, autos, and data laws. For the Gulf countries like UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia, critical for energy security and remittances, election influence how India positions itself in the Middle East. Defense deals and port connectivity projects depend on political continuity. In Japan, India is central to Japan's Indo-Pacific vision. Japanese investment in bullet train, industrial corridor, and manufacturing hubs requires predictable political conditions now. The big picture, how India's elections reshape the global strategy. When India votes, three major shifts occur in global strategy. First, India's strategic autonomy strengthens or weakens. A big majority equals to a stronger autonomy. A coalition equals to more negotiations, slower decisions. Second, Indian states become global players. Foreign governments now treat individuals, Indian state as a quasi-diplomatic partners. 3. India's role in the global south expands. India shapes climate finance, digital public goods, debt restructuring, and multilateral reform. So, India is not just participating in the global order, it's redefining it. And every 5 years, when India votes, president and prime minister across the world rewrite their strategies because India has become the swing power of this century. So, when India votes, the world reacts. Thank you for watching this. See you in the next one.